everybody. I wanted to give you a 2-week postpartum update to let you guys know how everything went. So this is going to be a little bit about me and my body and how I've recovered 2 weeks since having a baby, and then a little bit about my baby, excuse me, and newborn life. So a lot happened this second week of things. So if you've missed my first week update, please go, because I'm going to make some references to maybe difficulties or things from the first week into the second thing. So one thing is that the pimples that I had on my body the first week still was there, still pretty painful. I did end up having to go to the doctors this week, week 2, and I found out I lost 23 pounds, which is awesome. And my swelling that I had from being in the hospital with the IVs and everything, this week the swelling went way down, which was really, really nice, because I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable in my postpartum body. A little bit. The tear, so during the birth I had a 4th degree tear. It was definitely more sore and more uncomfortable this second week. I don't know if it's just because like my adrenaline went down a little bit, or maybe I pushed myself a little bit more this week. And also I wasn't quite as on top of taking my medicines on time as I was the first week of being home postpartum. So I was definitely a little bit more sore, and I could feel it more. Once again, the pain for being a 4th degree tear, like when you mentally think of what that is, the pain is nothing compared to the mental state of what you think it is, at least for me. Of course, every woman's body is different, right? So we can't tell what it is. But anyway, so my breast, still uncomfortable, still having intense nipple trauma, which I don't know if it's appropriate to truly explain or not. It's so hard. Oh, and pooping. I was like, oh, I don't know if this is appropriate. Let's talk about pooping, you know. But anyway, but pooping is a big deal for pregnancy, and it's a big deal for recovery. So just going to explain, it's so stressful. So with the stool softeners and the laxative, it was regular, and then nothing, which freaked me out, but then it became a little bit more regular. Pooping is starting to become a little less stressful. If I recommend this for everybody, Squatty Potty. It'll take the stress right out of it. So that is a little bit about, in general, what was going on with my body. So let's get into the specifics, because this second week, big week. So week 2 was, especially towards the beginning, extreme lack of sleep, and I think it was hitting. I think a lot of this week 2 was a lot of like adrenaline kind of dropping, because from the first week, you know, it's like you have the baby, then it's the like just intensity of first bringing your baby home, and then the second week is like, okay, the baby's been home for about a week now, and then everything kind of just hit me. I don't want to say you, I want to talk about me specifically, because it's my experience that we have. So for those of you guys that aren't familiar, right now my husband and I are currently living with my parents, which help, especially during the pandemic, has been amazing. But the second week we're really trying to do it on our own, to like get our little family established. And that was getting difficult. And it was specifically getting hard because he was I've been nursing breastfeeding, and he was feeding for hours, which that meant no sleep for hours, and it was crazy. So, and specifically at the middle of the night, and then he would stay awake, he couldn't fall back asleep, he was just like eating, but then when I was feeding him, like, he would fall asleep at the breast for a little bit and stuff, and so it was really hard. We were getting desperate, so I think it was Tuesday night. We ended up purchasing a sleeping course. It's supposed to be like a no-cry, very gentle sleeping course for newborns. It's called Taking Cara, C-A-R-A, Babies. And we just started watching the videos, and we did implement it. The first night it was amazing. He was able to, our baby Sam was able to get some sleep, but then the second night it didn't work, and honestly other things popped up, which I will get to, that we kind of had to take a break for practicing good sleep habits. So it's not a sleep training thing, because I haven't quite established my thoughts fully on sleep training or anything, but we were just desperate, and we felt like we needed some sort of guidance, and it did give us some guidance, and it just felt like what we were going to do. So so I don't know if I can recommend or not recommend this course at this time, because we didn't really get to try it except for try the tips that she had, except for the first day. So the second week, definitely a lack of sleep was getting to us. And then so Tuesday, I believe we bought the course. Tuesday we implemented. He had a good night. Wednesday he had a little bit of a difficult night. And so Thursday I was able to get a little bit of a nap in, but it was the worst nap of my life. And not the worst nap of my life, but it was really difficult because on Thursday, it was towards the evening time, I couldn't go to sleep because like my body was just shaking, and I felt like I had the chills. And so I was not feeling good. So Eric came, he had the baby, and he came and woke me up, and he was like, "Oh, how's your nap?" And I was like, I was freezing. And I was like, because I just thought I was cold. And I was like, I was freezing, and I was like, and I really couldn't sleep at all. And so he's like, freezing, it's really warm in here. And so he touched me, and he thought I felt warm, and then he used the thermometer, and I had a pretty high temperature. So we're like, oh my gosh. And later, just FYI, because I did have a fever, and I probably have been having a fever for a while, and I think I was pretty sick for a while, but because I was on Motrin and it's a pretty decent dose of Motrin, it's like from the hospital, because of my tear that my 4th degree tear that I've been dealing with. I think that that kind of tamped down the fever, and it wasn't because I missed my dose when I was taking my nap, and I think that is what allowed the fever to kind of start raging, so we could tell that, hey, it wasn't just lack of sleep or difficult thing. There's actually something going on with us, or going on with me. So sadly, by the time, like I looked up what, like, I had other symptoms, and so we finally decided to take me to urgent care to figure out what was going on, and that was really hard. And because my doctor's, I couldn't get an appointment, and it was getting pretty late. So week 2, I had to leave my baby, and it was hard. P.S. I am still dealing with postpartum, like, emotions, you know, the hormones going up and down. So if I get teary or if I cry, please give me grace for this one, because some of these memories are hard, but I'm going to try not to. So so we went to urgent care. I was feeling really miserable, like really miserable, and I had to leave my baby for the first time, and Eric decided to go with me and to urgent care, because I just definitely, I'm not supposed to be driving, and he decided he would rather go with me, and we left Sam with my mom. And I'm really thankful once again that that we are living with my parents, because I knew that he was in good hands to take care of me. But that was one of the hardest things I had to do at that point, was like, was just saying goodbye to my baby and going to urgent care. But I needed to take care of myself, because I obviously wasn't, I needed to get help, in order to take the best care that I wanted to give. And I only want to give him the best care that I can, and I couldn't if I was really, really sick. So I was really feeling terrible, and I was pretty sure I had mastitis, because I had all of the symptoms once I kind of let the Motrin wear off. So if you're not familiar with some of the symptoms, once again, please do not take medical advice from me, because obviously I don't really know what I'm talking about. This is just my experience. So I wrote it down, so I have my notebook here. So I'm going to read off my list of symptoms I have, and I was diagnosed with mastitis, and these are everything I had. So I had a fever, chills, I had my redness in my breast, which I do have to say, like, as you could see, like, obviously I'm not wearing any makeup, or I'm not doing anything. I showered yesterday. I don't know if I showered today though. But like, you guys could see, I definitely have like red in my skin, even though this light over here is yellow. But I have redness in my skin, and so I did notice my boobs were red, but I didn't really think much of it, because I can get red easily, so I didn't even think about it. So I did have redness. I did have a loss of appetite. There were hard parts in my breast. Nipple pain to the extreme, but that's really difficult, because I've had extreme nipple pain since he was born. And there were those were the main symptoms that I had. Urgent care was really hard. I was very nervous about them not allowing Eric to go with me to urgent care, but thankfully, or not thankfully, I'm not sure, I really was not feeling strong enough to walk, and I didn't know what the situation would be like. And so I asked Eric to get me a wheelchair, because they have those available at urgent care facilities. And so Eric was wheeling me, and so they let him come with me, which was great, because I was really weak at that point. And so they let him come in with me, because of obviously the pandemic thing. They've been very strict about visitors. So they let him come in with me, which I'm so glad, because I don't think I would be able, like, I just needed his strength. I needed his strength, and I needed his support, and he was totally there for me. There were tons of waiting in the urgent care, and I was really struggling with having patience, because every second I was away from Sam, like, my heart was feeling it. But they did diagnose me with mastitis, and they got me some antibiotics, and then and thankfully the next day I was starting to feel a little bit better. One thing that I do want to note, and I think I might say this in every video, is that especially as a first-time mom, when you are postpartum, it is so hard to know what is considered normal or what is considered not normal. It's so hard to know, when do you go into the doctor, when do you not go into the doctor? Not just for you, but also for your baby. Like, it's so hard to know, like, what do you ignore, what do you not ignore, what can you push through, what's normal, like, and then also, like, what are different things attributed to, you know, like, it's just hard, because we don't know, like, and especially a lot, like, with breastfeeding and things, because it's just so different. It's so different. It's a completely different bodily function that we're not used to, and it feels like, a lot of it feels weird. It's supposed to be natural, but at least to me, like, a lot of things didn't feel natural. And so so it's just really hard. I don't really have any advice but if you're feeling this way, you just are not alone. I don't have answers for you on what to do or what not to do, but it's just really hard. So I started to feel better. The next morning, so we went Thursday evening. The next morning, I think at like 10 or 11, somewhere around there, I did have an appointment with the lactation consultant. So he was born on Saturday, so it was almost the full 2 weeks, starting into the 3rd week, before I was able to get an appointment with the lactation consultant. And I was really looking forward to it because I was experiencing extreme pain. And I knew my nipples were cracked and bleeding, and it was extreme pain when he was latching, so I really wanted help and assistance. But I didn't know, because I had mastitis, if I should go or if I should not go. So I did call, and they said, absolutely, we really want to be able to see you. So on Friday, I had, sorry, it's out of focus. I did have an appointment with the lactation consultant. And Eric was not supposed to be allowed to go in with Sam and I, but they did allow him to go in towards the end because they wanted to show him to be able to help me with some things. So the appointment with the lactation consultant was at the hospital where he was born, which is a little bit of a further drive, but it was fine. One reason why they did really want to see me was that they wanted to kind of see what some possible causes for the mastitis was, and then what they could do for the what they could do to help me not keep getting it. So one possible cause could have been that I have pretty extreme nipple trauma from trying to breastfeed. That is one of the causes that they had, and so and then I'll go into the second cause once I explain what it was. Another thing was like I talked before, what my nipples look like was not normal. What the pain I was feeling was not just discomfort, it was way worse than apparently it was supposed to be. And I man, I wish I don't know if it's appropriate to describe it or not. I just don't know. And one thing that's terrible is because like obvious, like for a newly breastfeeding mom, you want to know, like, especially if you're having pain or like cracked or different things, like you want to be able to look for pictures on the internet or something to be like, hey, is this normal or is this not normal? But you can't look it up because it's inappropriate, you know. I'm not going to describe it, but I don't know. So it was really hard. But basically, especially if it's dealing with nipple things, I would highly recommend, and I wish I did this, which, because it's something that you cannot really look up on the internet, or you can't reference, is this normal, if it's not, please contact your doctor, or I think they call it medical provider, or contact some professional to get help, to know, because I was dealing with a lot more that I shouldn't have been, and I think a lot of it was just because I didn't know if it was normal or not. So especially with breastfeeding, please get help, ask questions as soon as you possibly can. Don't feel uncomfortable, don't feel nervous, don't feel weird about it, because you are probably going through something that, or not probably, you might be doing something, your body might be doing something that is not typical, and the sooner you get help, the sooner you can be moving forward in your feeding your baby journey, or getting better at least. And yes, and the worst is going to say, what's the worst that the doctor's going to say? Like, oh, it's totally normal. They're not going to be like, oh, first time mom, you're wasting my time. You know, like nothing, you don't have anything to worry about wasting their time, because they want to help you, and it's much better to help than to suffer. So what happened was basically when we went there, they weighed Sam, and then they noticed right away that there was a problem, because he lost a decent amount of weight from his appointment that he had earlier. So if you don't know, from our week 1, he had his 2-day or 3-day, I don't remember, old appointment, and he lost a significant amount of weight from his birth. So then they had me breastfeed and then supplement with formula, and they had me come in and weigh him 2 days later, and he gained some weight. And so they said, great, just do feed on demand breastfeed. And then 1 week later, I had this lactation consultant, and he lost weight from the last appointment he had, and that was concerning because he was supposed to be gaining weight if everything was fixed. So they knew, because he was losing weight, that there was possibly a problem. So they wanted to help me figure out the problem. So they did a weighted feed. So they weighed him. They had me breastfeed him, and there were different issues that they saw in different things, which I'll explain soon. And then they weighed him again afterwards to see how much milk he was getting. And it took him a while, and he got, I think they said 15 to 20 milliliters, which was absolutely not enough for what he was doing. So what they diagnosed was that there was a problem with him transferring milk, and there could have been some reasons for that. So it could be that he was just too young and not very good at transferring the milk, even though he has a very strong suction. There could be latch problems, but probably there also could be some basically our bodies might not match very well for the shape of his mouth and his tongue that he has. And then I have very flat nipples, and he has a very short tongue and a high roof of his mouth. And so they were saying that he just might not be able to transfer the milk to get the food, and or it could be because of the extreme nipple trauma that could also happen. So like I said earlier in the video, so what we were experiencing was, like, he would be feeding for such a long time, and then he would fall asleep. Sorry. And they said the reason for that was that he was burning so many calories. He was burning so many calories trying to get food that he was exhausting himself just trying to eat, because he wasn't getting, for whatever reason that they still weren't quite sure, he wasn't able to get the milk from me, and so he wasn't getting the calories he needed to keep on feeding so he could feel full. So the poor little guy was putting more effort in trying to get the calories than he was burning more calories than he was taking in, essentially, which is why he was losing weight. And obviously this was, sorry, it stopped recording for whatever reason. But basically, yeah, basically from the weighted feed that they found out that he was losing weight because he wasn't getting enough from me. And then, so it probably was happening since the beginning, but because when I went to the doctor, they put me on a regimen of breastfeeding and then supplementing with formula afterward. That's why he was probably able to gain weight. So she did recommend basically having me take a break from trying to breastfeed at all, and just to heal. Basically, I needed to heal, or because every single time we were breastfeeding, he was like basically busting me open. And so I needed to be able to heal to see if if we were able to continue breastfeeding without him continuously busting me open, because that could have been part of the problem, but it more than likely was also what was contributing to the mastitis that I was going to have. So if I didn't want to continually be on antibiotics, which isn't good obviously, and just continually being sick throughout this thing, that I needed to be able to heal. So so she recommended, it was Friday, she recommended taking a break until at least Monday to see if I could heal, and then after that maybe trying once a day. She did want me to try to pump to try to make my supply, and obviously I would probably need to use formula to supplement, because spoiler alert for coming up, I am definitely an undersupplier for milk, which I think could have been obvious. Anyway, and then she scheduled the next appointment to try to see how things were going in 2 weeks. So I think that would be week 4 for this one. And I thought the day before was the hardest day, but then it's like, oh no, that Friday appointment was the hardest day, because it felt like by trying to breastfeed, basically I was slowly, it felt like I was slowly starving my kid, my baby that I love so much, because like if you go into the OB or if you go everything, all you just see is like breast is best and all these different things, and I could not have felt like a worse mom. I guess maybe I could, but I felt like such a bad mom, because my baby was hungry and my baby was losing weight, and I just wasn't enough, you know, and I couldn't take care of him. I felt like a bad mom. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like my body wasn't made to do this because it wasn't working. And anyway, I'm not going to continue to go, because obviously I'm still really trying to battle all these super bad thoughts that I still am currently trying to not have, but I'm feeling about myself. So it was really hard. And the hardest, like, I don't have a strong stance on formula, or I don't really have a strong stance on formula other than it's really expensive. But the hard part for me was missing the connection. Was missing the connection between Sam and I, my baby and I, because like, even though like it was hard breastfeeding for hours and hours, because like basically I was just continuously breastfeeding almost non-stop, and he would just be falling asleep on and off of me because of the reasons, but like there was a lot of pain, but there was also like there was a ton of joy, and like in hearing his little sounds, and he was like, there was just so much cuteness and so much sweetness, and I was really able to see, I felt like even in the beginnings, a lot of his personality when we were breastfeeding, and I just saw so much of him, and I just loved what I saw, and I loved the little sounds he made and stuff. And so when we came home and we had to start bottle feeding him, like hearing him make like the cute adorable sounds and doing those, and it not being on me, it it's just really hard. Like in pumping, like I just felt so like disconnected and so far away from my baby that it was really, really hard. But I knew that that's what was best for him, and I knew that obviously I still love my baby. He knows that, and we will find connection in other ways. But the important thing was that I had, like, he has to eat. I had to provide for him, obviously. And so he was struggling and I was struggling, and so I broke the rules. And Friday night I tried to get him to nurse once. Saturday I tried to get him to nurse, like when he was crying and stuff like that. I just, like, I wanted to be the one to be able to provide comfort for him, and it probably was a mistake because of my body issues. So anyway, so week 2 was hard, but man, this kid is cute and I love him so much, and he is worth it all. So yeah, being a mom is the best thing, but also super, super hard. And I'm sorry that this might be a little bit of a downer of a video, but this was a really hard week. But we have some hope. We have some hope coming up, and I love him, and I'm so happy he's in my life, and I'm so happy he's a mom, and I would take this pain to have him in my life every single day of my life because he is amazing. All right, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.